Hello everybody. Today I wanted to take the time to make just maybe what seems like an important video to me uh, concerning manned spacecrafts for those who decide to make some. It's kind of just suggestions or some things you could take into account concerning the human, as the title says. So this will be in small, tiny sections. Uh, they're showing different aspects. So we have protection from other mechanisms, protector from the external elements, excuse me, redundancy and dependency, human control. Uh, Once again, these are just kind of suggestions or just kind of something to get you thinking about it. If you're willing to invest that time and effort into your future for spacecrafts, if you ever plan on it. So, without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. The first thing I'll talk about is protection from other mechanisms. So I'll be using this guy for this example. This is my Apollo spacecraft, or at least my part of it. So fits 3 people. Something when people make spacecrafts, something I've noticed is that they tend to just throw a launch escape system on top. It'll do. And the problem with that is that if you have a problem and you use that abort system, if you don't have player damage off, the rocket thruster, the physical range will go through the capsule and just kill you like any exhaust rail in game. And for example, a simple solution to that on your launch escape tower is to have the rocket a high enough distance so it doesn't cause damage, or at least not a significant amount to be noticeable or lethal. Or another way that I use in this one is you could actually tilt your rocket away, as you can see here. This would allow you, this would allow the rocket to deflect away from the capsule and make sure that the person inside does not get harmed. That's already it for the first section. So just small things. Also make sure you don't have anything that could break the spacecraft. That could just be anything that the spacecraft or the rocket or whatever is connected to it does. That should try not to harm you and yourself, the user, in any way. That's it for one. Now quickly on to B. Protection from external elements. The main one on that one is thermal protection. I'm not talking about re-entry heat shields or anything, because this is Stormworks, but more about when you go higher. Problem when you go, what happens when you go higher in the Stormworks is that the temperature drops. The higher you go, if you go in the hundreds of kilometers, you'll find yourself with negative 200 degrees Celsius, things like that. If you go high enough. Your first line of defense for that is heating system. Just a heater should do. This one's right here. Just to make sure the temperature just stays stable. Another thing to do, if it's not sufficient, because the higher you go, the less efficient your heater will. At one point, it won't be able to. Right? Is just get some Arctic clothing in there. Yeah. That'll just be a good protection against the cold. So if I'll take it for example here, yeah, just get you some extra warmth. Or I know if you want to take it a step further and you want to take a risk, I've been thinking about it, never got around to doing it. Maybe kind of using a fire, like literally, just to provide enough heat. The higher you go for it. The next, also on that subject, fire suppression. Sometimes batteries catch fire. If they get damaged or anything, it's easy to happen. So something also a bit neglected sometimes. It's not as important, but just kind of like shove a fire extinguisher in there. This one's roughly accurate to where the real one would be. Just get it, you know, because these spacecraft obviously they have their own batteries, unless they're special designs. For example, if you take this one, the battery's just hidden somewhere here, and you have batteries here. Just, you know, just have something. This one actually does not have anything for that. Just make sure. And another thing is water. That's like that is like the main thing on the workshop. Building a spacecraft, generally people just build a spacecraft and they're like, okay, then it has parachutes and it comes down. Well, your problem is that it comes down and then it's not sealed, and then the second it goes in the water, it sinks, and you get water everywhere. So if you take, for example, this one, the reason the hatch is so weird on this one is because I wanted to keep the exterior shape and a bit of functionality on the actual manual operated hatch. But yeah, sealed hatch. This is a sealed interior. I'll show you if you want. It's a sealed interior. So when you drop it in the ocean, what if when it drops into the ocean? There you go. Just yeah, it's something quite basic if you can get to work. Now I understand. Sometimes you don't have the space to do that. If you take, for example, one of my proudest ones actually, the Mercury. There is no space to seal it. There is literally no space at all to get that sealed, which can be the case, but which is understandable. Maybe if you can't get it sealed, maybe have something ready for it. For example, if you have a launch pad for it, just make sure you drop. Just make sure your play gets a scuba diving suit, because scuba diving suit or diving suits, for example, I reckon they make kind of excellent spacesuits as far as the game goes. And that's about it for protection from external elements. And now I want to talk about redundancy and dependencies. So the first one, something that I failed miserably, is keeping things simple to a degree, depending on the function, of course. So just kind of like, the more complicated it goes, the more logic heavy it is, the more stuff there is, the less good it'll work. And that's going to be an issue, because people, if something is just a tiny thing fails, you're going to get your entire thing just cease functioning, and you're not getting anywhere. So just kind of like simplifying things, or at least trying to get things a bit easier. If you want, you can also avoiding electricity in some contexts. For example, if we take a look at this, the use of the board panels or panel boards means that actually these switches don't go through electricity. That means if I have no electricity, I can flip that on. It will physically send a signal. I don't have something like the big massive button that doesn't work because of it's not connected with anything. Which can be good if you take, for example, landing sequence button. If you're kind of running low on battery, this automatic, the chute comes out, nothing happens. And that's about it for that. Alternatively, if you can't manage to do that, like if your things really need electricity, like you can't get any way of doing it, or if it gets too complicated, secondary batteries can't always do that. So have your backup for, like, if you have a re-entry or something, you know, just have like small redundancy, so that if one of them gets killed by something that's not functioning properly, firstly, if you have a good amount of breakers, you could actually isolate stuff. And that's about it. About that redundancy, that falls in the same category. You can also have emergency parachutes or backup parachutes in case one of them fails. Or you can do it the Apollo style, where there is 3 parachutes, but the capsule is rated to land with 2 parachutes, even if it's not as comfortable. And now, quickly going to the human control. So the point of it, it's a bit of a tricky thing, because you want to give the human or the person flying it control, but not too much. Because if you take, for in my case, most of it is manual. You have to physically arm stuff, and then when it comes to doing that, you have to flip that switch, get that working, get that, and then when you're done, oh yeah, you have that to do that, get the tanks up, whatever, yeah. And you're just overwhelming the person, and like, which I've seen. If you've seen Endo's video, I've both videos, I've overwhelmed him with commands and stuff, and yeah, you don't perform so well like that. So kind of automating stuff means that you cannot just you just lighten the load on the person. Also, if just giving appropriate information to the user. For example, if you take this, what do you need to know? Well, you would like to know the fuel inside the tanks in the stages. To know if you're running a bit too low. You might want to know if your thing is generating any power. The battery of your thing. I don't know. Well, you'd like to know where you're heading, your altitude, things like that. Just important things that will be useful for what I'm heading onto, which is the manual control. It'd be good if you have a fully automatic system. From the moment you get a man on, some functions would be preferable if you could have a manual override for it, which is the case here. Just give the human control if for some reason something fails because a sensor's broken or something, because of pivot clipping. It's just so if something goes wrong, the human can physically, using the appropriate information you just gave it, can do something to save the mission, or at least the main priority, save the crew. And I'll show you a bit on the last one, a bit of an at least in my inventory, the exemplar I have for it will be the Mercury. Sorry, that's kind of. If you look at this, it's all automatic. From the moment you start it, the countdown, everything happens manually. However, first you have control, you have to arm things, just to make sure stuff's done. And you have manuals here. So if something doesn't work right, it happens. For example, your parachute's just not gone or anything. The human can physically intervene and do things. And that just giving it a bit of function if something goes wrong, just so they know that they can do something. And that's about it. If there's anything I've missed, tell me. Once again, these are just suggestions or like things that you could do that could be beneficial for your spacecrafts, or if you ever want to get around to doing that, or anything like that. Just things to take into account if you really want. If your priority is the safety of the crew. And that's about it. This guy will get on the workshop soon, by the way, if you want it. And yeah, thanks for watching, and have yourself a great day.